Hey, welcome inside the Bucs Weather ROWI Report. We are doing a special edition to a bonus episode because we have 3 games that we want to watch over the weekend. And of course, we want to answer your questions. We always encourage you to reach out to us if you have questions about specific games, topics, or of course, you're seeing something happen in the weather world, reach out to us. Let's lock in on one of those questions. You'll see, we actually had a viewer reach out saying, hey, the tropics, they're coming alive. Will there be any impacts on the games this weekend? Short answer, no. But we'll dive deeper into that later on into the forecast. That doesn't mean we don't have any games that are impacted. We actually have a cold front that's been working its way through the country. Their fall frontal boundaries, it's what you expect this time of year. And we have the Demon Deacons hosting the Yellow Jackets. That's going to be all the way up in northern portion of North Carolina. Stationary boundary starts to move in. That opens up the opportunity of rain. You see how if you're on YouTube and you're watching this, that pulsing in the background, that's the lightning flashes. So yes, with the amount of rain we're anticipating, that's going to bump this up to a medium risk of weather impact. But it's not just the rain. We look at wind and the temperature factor of all of this as well. All of that combined reaches that mid-level threshold. So while we are at a medium risk of weather impact, notice though that there could be rain for a long portion of this game as kickoff is underway at noon. There's enough instability in the atmosphere. That's the beginning of the rain. I don't know if it's severe at that point, but as you get closer to halftime, that's when the lightning starts firing up. If you're a first-time listener, hey, thanks for checking us out. If lightning is within 8 miles of the stadium, they got to delay the game at least 30 minutes. And every additional strike that's within that 8-mile radius, it extends it out. Notice as you get back out, though, there could be some thunderstorms building back in by the end of the game. So are we looking at maybe some multiple delays? That could be possible. By the way, though, something to factor in. Just because there's a delay, when they come back out, oftentimes it's not raining anymore. So if the field holds up to the moisture and it doesn't get inundated and sloppy, it actually creates a relatively clean game again. You may have some residual or leftover moisture on the ball at times, but even in college, they are prepared for that. Something we'll be watching for, though, is how long these thunderstorms stay around. So I encourage you, if you haven't checked us out already, get the Fox Weather app. It's free to use. Pull up the radar right before the game, and you can time out those storms. So that was college football. Now let's lock in on the pros. This is actually America's Game of the Week. You can check it out on Fox. It's at Ray J Stadium, and no surprise, 1 p.m. kickoff means thunderstorms could potentially be back in. But notice it's not the only factor. As I told you with the first game, the ROWI doesn't just talk about rain and the lightning aspect, but also the wind and the temperature. This time of year, it's still hot and steamy. That humidity really increases the overall air temperature. So when you combine, yes, the opportunity for not only thunderstorms at some point in this game, but also the lack of activity early on, leading to a very warm environment. I mean, you're talking temperatures even tiptoeing into the lower 90s. As you get into the second half, that means it feels like temperature could be north of 100. Feels like 1,000 degrees out there. And you have a northern team that's coming into town. So you have the Eagles. Yes, they're the reigning champs. Yes, they depend on the tush push, but still, this could be an early season factor that we could be watching for. Notice that it's going to be warm even at the start of the game. But typical, I grew up in Florida, spent over 2 decades there. You see these storms really come alive middle to the latter half of the afternoon. That's the second portion of the game, second half. And what I think is going to be amazing to watch is Baker, in all of his games so far, has led to fourth quarter last-minute drives to win the game. And now you're talking about lightning may potentially being a factor, weather being a factor in all of that. It adds an extra level of spice and excitement to the game at Ray J. I mean, you got undefeated teams, 3-0, 3-0, battling it out, and now you got Mother Nature saying, hey, I might have a little influence on this as well. By the way, if you're just joining us, something we talk about is that the home teams, they oftentimes actually benefit from these delays. You feel more comfortable in your locker room. You can get back into that rhythm. So again, maybe that leans a little bit favor for the Bucs. A great game to watch. Now, what a lot of people have been asking about, especially when we had our viewers reach out and they said, hey, are the tropics going to be a factor? They were worried about this game. We'll talk more about the tropics in a moment, but the overall trend that we have seen for this game is a less of an impact from Invest 94L or what's likely to be called Imelda by the time this actually kicks off. So why you're seeing the precipitation limited, why the wind is limited, temperature impact, that's still going to be there, because if there's no action, no rain-cooled atmosphere, it's going to be cooking in South Florida. So relatively, though, it's a low risk of weather impact as we push into Monday Night Football, and that's the big portion of this. We're talking Monday Night Football. If this was the heart of the afternoon, you would see that temperature impact increase a little bit more, but let me show you what the kickoff temperature is going to be like. They're in the mid-80s, getting back down into the lower 80s. You're actually going to be looking at relatively, mild conditions overall for what you would expect. Hot maybe for the Jet standards, mild for Dolphin standards when you're talking about Hard Rock Stadium. Overall, though, seeing an improving trend from what we saw earlier in the week, and a lot of concern with the Atlantic Basin coming alive. You know what I'm talking about here on our Fox Weather stream. We've been talking about it nonstop over the last several days, the activity out in the Atlantic. And I want you to see how you can talk to us. We had our viewer that reached out and said, "Hey, Weather Bender, that's me. Will the tropics impact any of the games this weekend?" And I was like, yo, great question. We are looking at, of course, the tropics, but notice the time frame. This doesn't really start making impact outside of the Bahamas until Sunday night into Monday. Now, you're saying, hey, we just had a Monday night game. Well, notice Monday, it's up into the Carolinas, so well removed from South Florida. Let's dive into the dynamics, right? So this is the time frame of what we're seeing out in the Atlantic, why we're talking about those Florida games missing out. We're not just talking about professional, even on college football. College football, notice on Saturday, the Bahamas are getting smacked. And if the U was actually playing instead of just resting up for FSU, Dr. ROWI, we're going to be talking about, I can't wait, getting spicy about that. That's going to be next week, but they're resting. If they had a home game, maybe we see a little more of an influence on that. Now, overall, I want to encourage you, if you love football, and now you're hearing me talk about weather, you're saying, hey, this is kind of interesting. What we're showing you right now on YouTube or wherever you're watching this is the overall consensus model, what the hurricane models are picking up as of right now with Invest 94L. The overall trend, what we've seen over the past couple of days, increased confidence that the Southeast coast will be impacted. When I say Southeast, of course, you think college football, SEC country. Again, this is not until early next week. So we're not even talking about this weekend games being impacted or potentially even next week. I do want to show you our exclusive Fox model we put into motion. This is one of many different iterations of the hurricane model. So this is just an example of what we could see unfold. Notice that we're likely looking at Monday night into Tuesday as a time frame for really when this could be making its move inland. As a landfall or potential widespread showers as of this point. The time of this recording is on a Friday. Look at how much rain is in the forecast. So something that we'll be watching, of course, is does Invest 94L turn into Imelda? Does Imelda stay as a tropical storm? Does it turn into a hurricane? And does it bring enough rain that it impacts the next round of games next week? This is going to be coastal impacts as of right now, limiting the expectations. But whether you're a weather fan or a sports fan, this is something that we'll be watching overall. If you have any other questions, we'd love to answer them. We show you one way that you could reach out. You could go over on social media at WeatherBender or at Fox Weather. We'd love to talk about, of course, the weather impacting the game. You could ask us about specific weather events. It doesn't have to just be the tropics. And by the way, we have episodes every Tuesday and Wednesday. And then when you give us questions or we see games are going to be impacted, we do a bonus episode when warranted. Please have a great weekend. Have some fun. Be weather safe. And we'll see you at the next kickoff.